Hare Krishna, and we are continuing with the Perfection of Yoga by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, page number 26. Okay, so Sri Krishna says, Yatra paramate chittam nirudham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatma natmanam pasyanatmani tushyati sukham atyantikam yat tad buddhi grahyam atindriyam veti yatra nachaivayan stitaschalati tatvata yam labdva cha param labham manyatenadikam tatah yasmin sthito na dukhena guru napi vichalyate tadvidya dukha samyoga viyogam yoga samgitam. Quote, in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulties. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Unquote, Bhagavad Gita 6.20 to 23. Amazing. Jai. One form of yoga may be difficult and another may be easy, but in all cases, one must purify his existence in the conception of Krishna conscious enjoyment. Then one will be happy. Yada hinendriyartheshu na karma svanu sajjate sarva sankalpa sanyasi yoga rudhas tadochyate udhared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva ripur atmana. Quote, a person is said to have attained to yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. A man must elevate himself by his own mind, not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So we either degrade ourselves by our mind or we elevate ourselves by our mind. It's our friend as well as our enemy. Bhagavad Gita 6.4 to 5. We have to raise ourselves to the spiritual standard by ourselves. Hey, look at that! That's great, isn't it? By ourselves. Not that somebody comes and you pay him some money and he picks you up, right? Self-realization, that is. Let's read that again. We have to raise ourselves to the spiritual standard by ourselves. In this sense, I am my own friend and I am my own enemy. This opportunity is ours. There is a very nice verse by Chanakya Pandit. Quote, no one is anyone's friend. No one is anyone's enemy. It is only by behavior that one can understand who is his friend and who is his enemy. Unquote. No one is born our enemy. No one is born our friend. These roles are determined by mutual behavior. As we have dealings with others in ordinary affairs, in the same way the individual has dealings with himself. I may act as my own friend or as an enemy. As a friend, I can understand my position as spiritual soul and seeing that somehow or other I have come into contact with material nature. Try to get free from material entanglement by acting in such a way as to disentangle myself. In this case, I am my friend. But if, even after getting this opportunity, I do not take it, then I should be considered my own worst enemy. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmanajitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. Quote, for he who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be his greatest enemy. Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 6.6. How is it possible for one to become his own friend? This is explained here. Atma means mind, body, and soul. When we speak of Atma, insofar as we are in the bodily conception, we refer to the body. However, when we transcend the bodily conception and rise to the mental platform, Atma refers to the mind. But actually, when we are situated on the truly spiritual platform, then Atma refers to the soul. In actuality, we are pure spirit. In this way, according to one's spiritual development, the meaning of the word Atma differs. As far as the Nirukti Vedic dictionary is concerned, Atma refers to mind, body, and soul. However, in this verse of Bhagavad Gita, Atma refers to the mind. If through yoga the mind can be trained, then the mind is our friend. But if the mind is left untrained, then there is no opportunity of leading a successful life. For one who has no idea of spiritual life, the mind is the enemy. If one thinks that he is simply the body, his mind will not be working for his benefit. This will simply be acting to serve the gross body and to further condition the living entity and entrap him in material nature. If, however, one understands one's position as spirit soul apart from the body, the mind can be a liberating factor. In itself, the mind has nothing to do. It is simply waiting to be trained, and it is best trained through, drumroll, association. Desire is the function of the mind, and one desires according to his association. So, if the mind is to act as friend, there must be good association. Ta-da! The best association is a sadhu, that is, a Krishna conscious person, or one who is striving for spiritual realization. There are those who are striving for temporary things, asat. Matter and the body are temporary, and if one only engages himself for bodily pleasure, he is considered by temporary things. But if he engages himself in self-realization, then he is engaged in something permanent, sat. Obviously, if one is intelligent, he will associate with those who are trying to elevate themselves to the platform of self-realization through one of the various forms of yoga. The result will be that those who are sadhu or realized will be able to sever his attachment to material association. This is the great advantage to good association. For instance, Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna just to cut off his attachment to his material affection. Because Arjuna is attached to things that are impeding the execution of his own duty, Krishna severs these things. To cut something, a sharp instrument is required, and to cut the mind from its attachments, sharp words are often required. The sadhu or teacher shows no mercy in using sharp words to sever the student's mind from material attractions. By speaking the truth uncompromisingly, he is able to sever the bondage. Wow, this is awesome. I love this analogy. Love it, love it, love it. Wow. Maybe because I love the truth. Absolute truth. Haribol. Okay, for example, at the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks sharply to Arjuna by telling him that although he speaks like a learned man, he is actually fool number one. If we actually want detachment from this material world, we should be prepared to accept such cutting words from the spiritual master. Compromise and flattery have no effect where strong words are required. Awesome. Okay. In Bhagavad Gita, the material conception of life is condemned in so many places. One who thinks the country in which he is born is worshipable, or one who goes to holy places and yet ignores the sadhus there, is likened unto an ass. As an enemy is always thinking of doing harm, so the untrained mind will drag one deeper and deeper into material entanglement. Conditioned souls struggle very hard with the mind and with the other senses. Since the mind directs the other senses, it is of utmost importance to make the mind the friend. Jadatmanach prashantasya paramatma samahitach shitoshna sukha dukeshu tathamanapa manayo. Quote, for one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 6.7. By training the mind, one attains actual tranquility. For the mind is always dragging us over non-permanent things, just as an unbridled horse will pull a chariot on a perilous course. Although we are permanent and eternal, somehow or other we have become attracted to non-permanent things. But the mind can be easily trained if it is simply fixed on Krishna. Just as a fort is safe when it is defended by a great general, if Krishna is placed in the fort of the mind, there will be no possibility of the enemies entering. Material education, wealth, and power will not help one to control the mind. A great devotee prays, when will I be able to think of you constantly? My mind is always dragging me about, but as soon as I am able to fix my mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, it becomes clear. Unquote. When the mind is clear, it is possible to meditate on the Supersoul. The Paramatma or Supersoul is always seated within the heart, along with the individual soul. The yoga system involves concentrating the mind and focusing it on the Paramatma or Supersoul situated within the heart. The above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita indicates that one who has conquered the mind and has overcome all attachment to non-permanent things can be absorbed in thought of the Paramatma. One so absorbed becomes free from all duality and false designations. Jai, we have completed 4th chapter of this incredible book, and we're starting 5th tomorrow. The link to this book is in the description, and we will see you next time. Hare Krishna. Haribol!